Hello and welcome to Michael and Ivanka's Grand Podcast. Chats about subjects, nouns, enumeration, two friends. It's like the pub. My name's Michael Forrest.
And I'm Ivanka Magic.
This week we're going to do a chatty batty one. It's going to be about, we're going to just talk about driving, because I had a driving lesson this week. My second ever, but the last one was like 4 years ago. So, and frankly, I came into it anxious, and which just made the whole thing horrible. So I'm kind of like, I kind of want to get some answers and just think about, Ivanka's been driving forever, so I was going to sort of get some insights, just get her to explain everything to me about driving.
I will do that. I'll explain everything about driving.
What sort of subject headings do we have?
Independence, freedom, adventure, driving a lethal weapon.
Driving a lethal weapon. I think just the process of like learning, I've found quite interesting. Like as a sort of older person trying to learn and like not quite, I don't know, like being able to very clearly articulate when I think the instructor is having unreasonable expectations about what I should be able to do. Like, I just talk about some of that and some of the strangeness there.
I think the fact that in England you learn on a road.
Yeah, like, I'm in London driving, there's actual cars around me that I get... What do I do here? There's a car coming the other way and there's no gaps. What do I do? You haven't told me anything about this yet. Lord. So yeah, it's like being thrown into the deep end of a swimming pool and then there's some sharks in there as well. I don't know. How are you doing, Ivanka?
I am doing very well.
How's the heat?
Oh, it's hot. I have multiple stories this week.
Go for it.
So you're going to have to indulge me.
Do it.
I think they're good ones, though. I think you're going to like it.
Yeah.
So the first story, seeing as the rest of the episode is going to be about you learning to drive, I think I'm going to occupy the opener. So multiple stories. Story number one. I have a fixed internet line to my house.
What did you say?
Affords me a whole 20 megabits per second of internet with unlimited download possibilities, which is something I've been phoning Croatia Telecom for about 3 years. Quite regularly. Hello. Hi, I'd like some internet. Yes. Obviously, I'd like the best I can have. Can I have a fixed line? Oh, sorry, madam. There's no technical possibility for that. But we can give you this 3G replacement box. Okay. So can I go on a list? Who can I write to? What can I do? And I've been regularly getting in touch in exasperation last week because there's people on the island, 3G, 4G internet is not workable. I was phoning around trying to find somebody who could rent me an office with internet, just to hire an office for a couple of weeks or, over the summer. Yeah. To know, and one of the people I spoke to, he said, well, hang on a minute, I know an engineer who used to work for Croatia Telecom. I'll give him a call. Phones me back. He said, yes, all you need to do, because there's definitely broadband on your street, is phone up and say you want to make an official request for a fixed line. Okay, official request. Phone up. Hello, I'd like to make an official request for a fixed line. Certainly, madam. Let me just fill in the form. And she said, well, fill in this official request. It's like its title. So she fills in the form. She said, we'll put that you don't want a replacement service. Yes, let's put I don't want a replacement service. This is Friday.
Yeah.
Yesterday morning, the two technicians rocked up, and I now have the internet.
So 6 days later.
Yeah.
5
3
days
years later.
Well, 3 years later.
And all the difference is that not one of these people had said, let's put in an official request.
Yeah.
It's basically either willful ignorance, laziness, not incentivized, incentivized to sell 4G internet boxes. I really don't know, but I think it is outrageous. Baffling. So I'm very happy about that. So I've now got the interwebs at home that are reliable. So that was a great success.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My other story, I was just going to tell you, we went paddleboarding at 5 o'clock this morning. Which is not really a story. I thought I had something else to tell you.
Did anything happen on the story? Was there a meeting?
No, there was no story.
Was there a call to action, call to adventure? You left your old life behind. You went through. You had to overcome some challenges. You hit a low point. You came through, and then you came back home renewed and a different person. That'll do. I will say though that I've had a slight departure from my reading texts by Black women authors this week, and I've been reading Educated by Tara Westover. Anyway, it's a sort of autobiography of a woman who is now historian, recognised scholar, writer, who grew up with Mormon parents who were survivalist people, but it's quite a read. And there is a moment in it in which she gets a grant, and she describes her ability to learn, because she manages to get to university even though she's got her parents they were home not schooling her. So she manages to get to university, and she describes the mental relief of having a grant and being able to learn because she's not worrying about paying her bills. So it's like a perfect little, goes on our list of why being poor is, you can't judge people for, performance when they're poor, which was a perfect week to read this, given that there's sort of this A-levels. Have you seen this story? There's no good news in the A-levels. UK at the moment. The A-level results came out yesterday, and they were marked by an algorithm. And almost across the board, all public... So teachers had to submit, estimated results. And then algorithms then adjusted them in some way. And it would appear that children who attended state-funded education establishments have generally been marked down by the algorithm, and people attending private schools have been marked up by the algorithm. I've not seen that story.
Yeah,
there will be a link in the description.
There will. I'm sure.
Maybe you'll even read it.
So that's another one to the prejudice of algorithms and who teaches them, and the fact that they are inherently biased, which is something we've talked about anyway, and also the price of poverty. So, Michael, how are you? How's your week?
I'm excited that Kamala got the Kamala Harris. That's exciting. That's good to see.
That is exciting, yes.
But I had, I'm seeing the sort of bubbling up of a new birther conspiracy, because that's how pathetic Donald Trump is, just straight in with that shit. But I got an email last week from what did it say? It said, our producers here at Newswatch recently came across Changes and asked me to reach out to you. We thought that Changes could be a good fit for a feature on our morning show. In case you're unfamiliar, Newswatch is an independent technology show airing on the AMC network and airs in over 200 markets and 95 million US households. We highlight recent innovations and the latest tech trends. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. Sort of managed to set up a call after some stumbling. I don't know what's going on with the email, but then I had the call yesterday, and it was we'll kind of work together, produce this feature segment for this TV show. It'll get seen by 2 million people. It'll be like a little TechCrunch like advert in there. Blah blah blah, and then it was like, oh yeah, but we will sort of film, we'll do a script, we'll do a thing, we need $5,000 just to cover the costs of it. And I was like, okay, yeah, it was probably going to be something like that. But it was an interesting chat, and I thought, I was just like, I mean, I don't think I can't really do that right now, and I don't even know if it would be that effective for me because I think, like, even if you did that, it would probably, it'd certainly be a good sort of, here is my thing, it exists, but it would be over very quickly, and it would, without more money to spend on advertising sort of around it, and like keep exposing people to people. It's, their customers are really sort of like Sony and Microsoft, and people like me. I don't think it makes sense. But like having like tried to get PR companies to work for me and finding it really hard to get them to sort of want to do stuff, I don't completely discount that was quite a nice thing that they would be reaching out to me. So it seems okay. But and also just the fact that, I asked how they'd found me, and they said, well, he'd sort of thought like sort of this journaling thing, like his team sort of found like a couple of apps that did it. And then it was quite nice to see that my app came up like that. And also 10 years ago, I was having to like explain to people why you would even do like that. No one was looking for like a journaling app that tracks your happiness. And now it's like, at least like that hurdle is out of the way. At least people are looking for a thing that does that, because that was a real challenge for me promoting it back, in the sort of early 2010s. And then another thought I've had is there's someone in my Facebook feed. Basically, my Facebook experience at the moment is I see there's the usual stuff, and then I meet some like coronavirus conspiracy meme, and it's this producer guy that has this studio in Hackney and it's like, who should know better than to be spreading this stuff, and I don't know what forums he's on, and I was just trying to I don't want to just unfollow him, or do I want to send him a private message, or do I want to... But, like, what am I going to say to him? I sort of want to say, like, this doesn't make you look smart and cynical. It makes you look stupid. And the reason no one's responding to this is because you look stupid.
We're all embarrassed.
Right, we're all just like, this guy, like, what is wrong? Like, I noticed that Boris Johnson managed to recover from coronavirus with no vaccine. It's like, grow up, what are you doing? And I was just thinking, like, this is the Facebook lack of the dislike button as a decision, which I think was always intended to sort of keep things positive. I think the problem with only having upvotes is there's no sort of casual way to say, off with this out of my feed, you look stupid, without actually writing a comment, or without actually having to engage in an uncomfortable way. There's no way just to go for people to realise that when they post something up, people are like, this is dog shit, what are you doing?
I've literally just been doing this qualitative research, and part of my warm-up questions is, so you see someone on Facebook's posted something that's obviously wrong, not just that you disagree with, but is like, because I'm talking to people who are professionals in particular fields. Yeah. And I was like, what do you do? And people are like, largely, all of them are, I just mute them, unfollow them if they're family member. If I care about them and I'm close to them, I might private message them, phone them up if I can do it face to face, have a chat with their friend. One person was a nurse, and one of her friends put up some bullshit about masks, suffocating you, and she just phoned her up and said, look, that is factually wrong. But she did it gently. She said, so all these people that do it and have examples that they cite where they've done it are people who have taken the offline, take a deep breath. But more and more, the vast majority of people opt with I'll just mute them and not talk to them, which is inherently part of the problem, I think. Yeah. Because we all just go... I mean, I've got a WhatsApp from a cousin who sent me some video, and I've just not responded. Yeah. I just can't, because it's going to take time.
Yeah, they're just like, we need a downvote. We need no.
And it's like, just no. You know, like non-emotional. It's like no.
Yeah.
Or be able to report it, or you know, like they've made these attempts at it being, you know, showing the factual. But you know, these people, you can't argue with them that way either. Because they just go, oh, well, you know, that's Soros-funded fact-checking service. And like, oh, just f*** off. Who was I talking to the other day? And I was like, the world is so messed up at the moment and there's so many things wrong. I cannot be bothered to believe in a conspiracy theory. Do you know what I mean?
It's like, we don't need a conspiracy theory right now. Like,
it's all broken, and it's broken because we broke it.
Feel the heat waves. Look at the news.
It's like, it was something like 30 degrees centigrade in the Arctic Circle a month ago, and Nick and I had started our motorcycle trip in the Arctic Circle on like the 2nd of June, and we had to camp in freezing fog because Nick couldn't see to ride the bike because it was just freezing fog, so we just had to stop. And I was like, how can it have been? And then I have to say that for reassurance purposes, we went to look, because we've kept on, you know, on your weather app, you have the different towns. We went to the town where that happened, and it was reassuringly still 2 degrees there.
Okay.
It's like, phew. However, somewhere else in the Arctic Circle, that was 30 degrees. And it's so easy to get freaked out by the truth of the situation at the moment.
Why do we need to make stuff up as well?
Oh, I really can't. But I don't know what other than muting or having a quiet word on the side. But it has to be. I think the problem is that it's like you basically. I think you need to protect who it is from losing face. So you know you have to do it in a way that's not going to provoke a masculine. And I think so. Telling him he looks stupid is probably not going to work.
Well, also, I know the paranoia will be deep, judging by the way what he was putting away when we did go out the one time.
That's the
deep and intense. Like it's like your brain is not a functioning brain at this point, and I'm not sure I can actually communicate.
Yeah, that's the other. This is, you know, that's what we're living with, Michael. We're living with the consequences of prolific use of Class A's. That's what's wrong in the world.
Let's talk about driving. I had my driving lesson this week. I had it's like a sort of middle-aged Eastern European lady is teaching me. Mask on. It was very hot, which probably didn't help. But I'm learning to drive a manual car, so it's like clutch, bite point, put it in first, just steer, move it into the road, blah blah blah. But I guess the first thing before we actually talk about driving itself is like, I pride myself on my ability to learn things, and I feel like I've honed my learning, I kind of know what I need to do to learn something to make it stick in my brain. And so I think I was like, I'm trying to do what I know, you know, I'm trying to make sure like any things that I'm doing, I'm trying to like get them to come from me as soon as possible. And then she's sort of going, why did you do that? I didn't tell you to do that. I'm like, and I'm sort of responding like variously, because I've got bad habits from cycling, or because I'm trying to do it for myself. I didn't know you were going to tell me every single thing that needs to be done still, or like all this, or like why didn't you brake? I'm like, I did brake. I just didn't know how. I still don't know how sensitive the brake pedal is yet. Right? Do you understand? And I'm feeling like just a really bad student because like I was like, why? She was reacting really like quite like she was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I can't be like unique in not quite knowing how much pressure goes on the brake in my first bloody driving lesson in this car, can I? I'm like, don't brake too hard. Yeah, okay, I'm trying not to brake too hard. Why aren't you braking? Because I'm trying to find the point on the pedal where you put it to stop at the right speed, for fuck's sake. So, like, there was all of that, and then, like, oh, you nearly crashed into that bin. I had my foot on the brake, and I was just trying to find the right level to not jolt. Oh, and I'm like, and then I'm like reflecting on it. I'm kind of going, okay, but I guess I'm trying to put myself in the mind of a teenager, and going, well, how do they do? I guess they're just like waiting to be fed everything. Certainly, they're not going to try and take responsibility for everything straight away. That's like teenagers don't like responsibility yet. So I guess I should have just been more passive and just kind of waited for her to go, oh, don't do this. But then I'm kind of like, well, but that's not going to help me get it inside my brain. But I don't know. The whole thing just left me absolutely like, I just wanted to get out of that car after an hour. Like I was like, I can't do this. I feel horrible. And then it was like, there's another hour of this, and I'm driving around.
How long was your lesson?
2 hours, 2 hour lesson,
right.
And
how did it start? Were you on is there a quiet road near you?
Yeah, well, it's all like, there's quiet-ish, but there's always traffic. There's always something coming, or like there was a temporary traffic light that we weren't expecting. We had to like turn around, but there's other driving people being taught to drive as well. So it's sort of, but it's like relatively quiet for London. I just came into it anxious. For whatever reason, I think I had one. I should not have had a third coffee, like because I forgot that. Because that just like, if you're going to be adrenalized anyway, then just adding coffee on top of that just leads to just panic. And it's like, but I think people when they're trying to teach me stuff, they get frustrated because I'll do it really well once or twice, but then I'll kind of like start panicking again, and I'll start like throwing again. I don't know if they seem surprised by this, and I'm like, well, I don't know, and I don't know how much of it is just like I need to just stop being so anxious, kind of thing. But then you think logically, it's like, well, it's not like I'm going to kill someone. It's not like if I don't want to like hurt the car. I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to hurt a thing. And also, I just hate the feeling of being bad at something. So, and then having that hammered home to me, how bad I am at this thing over and over again was just frankly a bad experience, and I hated it. And I've got another one this afternoon.
Well, it's entirely possible that she's not the best instructor for you. That's a possibility. But I have to say, I have been driving for a very long time. But I was also like, my father stuck me in a field with a car, made me practice clutch control.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not going to get
ages.
to do that. Where am I supposed to do that? Like, and I always thought that was kind of why I didn't want to. There was no point me learning as a teenager, because there was no point. I was never going to get a car. Like in my family of like 7 kids, like we're not getting cars, Jesus. And there's no way we're going to start like driving around. Like, so, and now I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to throw money at this thing and try and just do it in lessons. But yeah, without that sort of opportunity to like drive around a field and just go and practice and just kind of like do it over and over again, which is how you learn to do something. You do it over and over again.
I have to say though, once I'd passed my driving test, I'd say it was at least another year before I would say that I knew how to drive. Even though I was pootling around the world, well, not around the world, around Brighton. Because I remember a couple of things. As soon as I was allowed in a car by myself, I couldn't handle the radio being on or something because I needed to concentrate. The other thing is I realised that whilst I'd been looking at at the mirrors. Yep, that one's there. That one's there. I hadn't been looking in the mirror, not understanding how important all that peripheral sort of stuff is, or realising. I did know how to control the vehicle. Definitely, I got enough hours in for that. But I hadn't got a scoop. I remember though, while I was learning. We'd make up trips to go on so that I could practice driving, and my mum would be in the car. We're going off to visit her auntie somewhere, 2 hours drive away. Get to the first roundabout, and I stop as we're approaching the roundabout. Look at my mum. What do I do? She's like, "What do you mean? What do you do?" I was like, "Well, I haven't done roundabouts yet." She was like, "What?"
She was like, "Oh, maybe you'd rather learn an automatic." I'm like, you. You. This podcast is something we do anyway, and we're going to do it because we like it. But, if you feel guilty for any reason about getting hundreds of hours of content for free, or certainly dozens of hours, but we're approaching hundreds, you can assuage your guilt by supporting us on Patreon. And then you get to come and join our Slack and do things like that. Maybe we'll even do some special stuff on there. I don't know. Probably not if there's only 2 people on there. But if there's 10 people on there, then maybe. Promos? Anything?
No promos this week.
No promos. Okay, well, I'll just say 2 things. And then come to goodtohear.co.uk/free to join my mailing list, get my free ebook, Tracking Happiness, and get on this bandwagon and start to take control of your brain.
The other thing my dad did make me do, because he was this kind of a dad, before I was even allowed on the field, I had to sit in a chair with baked bean tins or whatever, tins under my feet and talk through I had to sort of act out driving. Yeah. He was a bit of a, but I did get to, I do feel very comfortable in any vehicle. I've driven in lots and lots of countries, but it does need a lot of practice. Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's interesting to me that the driving test isn't really to test if you're a good driver. It's just to make sure that you're not going to hurt people, that you're not going to inconvenience or put people in danger too much now that you start driving. But to be sort of, well, you can't be good at everything. I'm like, lots of people can drive. That is not the limit of my talents. This is not something that I am prepared to accept defeat on. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should get someone different, but
it takes a while to. It does take a while for it to become automatic.
Yeah,
there's just no other. But 2 hours might just be... Is that the lesson length? Can't you just do an hour?
I don't know, maybe.
I don't know, maybe that's what they do. They do these days.
2 hours seems okay by me. But
okay.
It just needs. You just need to repeat it over and over again until you can I'm trying to just get it so that I'm just okay. I'm going forwards now. I don't want to be gear clutch. I just want that to be a movement that I'm not thinking about. But to get to that, you sort of have to try and do it confidently in the way that you're going to always do it. And then, if you get it wrong, then it just looks worse. Yeah,
but I think it'll be I seem to recall that around about the time when I was learning to drive, and maybe people are boasting, we can get you passing your test in 11 hours or whatever, but it was a considered 20 hours of driving lessons was considered to be a normal amount. And I stalled the car on my driving test, but didn't fail because I reacted appropriately. So it's I still stall the car every so often now, but that's usually because I'm being lazy. I'm like, yeah, we can do this in second gear. Oh, no, we can't. It's like, and there is a bit of that sort of like, because I don't get to drive very much at the moment because A, we don't drive very much. We don't go anywhere very much. But because of Nick's deaf ear, it's easier if he's sitting in the driver's seat, then I can talk to him.
Right.
And so, but otherwise we can't have we cannot talk because he can't hear. And so he just ends up driving by default. But this weekend, after when we drove home from camping, I drove because he'd been shown by this German guy I made friends with in the campsite how to open a bottle of beer with a piece of paper.
Okay.
But in practicing this, he had managed to poke himself in the eye. So he was don't think he'd expected it to be so effective. So we thought he'd best not drive for a bit. But I quite enjoyed myself. It's just the hardest thing I think about driving is the people that drive who rely on everyone else so that they don't die. So the people that are on the wrong, taking the corners, the bends the wrong way, because this is like the coast road here is very bendy and cut into the side of cliffs. People drive too fast, they cut corners. And if you're not driving defensively, if everyone drove like that, it'd just be a massive... It's my analogy for libertarianism driving.
It's so we've been watching. There's this new game that came out recently that I watched this YouTuber who plays this game called Fall Guys, which is this sort of battle royale. Like you get like 50 random little characters doing these obstacle courses, and it is sort of like, and it becomes this like. Everything that's wrong with humanity sort of manifests itself in this thing. And he's sort of likening it to driving, like people being on the road. If like everybody behaved like this, society would not function. But it's this strange, this microcosm of humanity represented in this sort of cartoonish game where you've got a race to sort of collect a crown or get someone's tails, which it's a lot of fun to watch, I have to say. But... partly because the rants are just like, why is humanity so like, you're on my team, why are you grabbing me? I'm trying to cooperate with you. It's
insane. I mean, here they're like, nobody lets you out ever. Nobody will ever let you pull out of a junction. They speed, they go really, really fast, and then you're like, and where did you get to? Nowhere. You're like 1 minute ahead of me in the queue for the ferry. It's like, what? And so there's a lot of that sort of, I don't know, almost like nihilistic driving style.
My cycling analogy for this is different, but like the thing I hate most about cycling is when there's someone slow in front of me. And I'm like, okay, like you're going too slow. So I go around them and I kind of go ahead. And then maybe we get to a light. And then they come, they sort of slowly come up. And then they like go in front of me. Yeah. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what? Just go behind me so that we don't have to go through this again. Like... Why would you do that?
But you see, I think it's to do with like an obliviousness.
Yeah.
I think there are people who like go through the world in this like bubble where the world starts and ends sort of, I don't know, a metre out from them. Yeah. And that you find them as cyclists, and I don't think they even noticed. They probably didn't even notice you to overtake them. They probably didn't even notice that they just saw a space, they drove into it. And you find these same sort of people on the road. It's like, mate, if I was driving like you are, we'd both be dead. I have a family member who drives like she's one extra, she is neither the bubble, she's not in the bubble or outside the bubble. I think she drives as though she's untouchable. Like, nothing's going to happen to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, do you know what? That's only because I am paying attention. That's why nothing's going to happen to you, not because you're a super amazing driver.
Right, give me some hope. Like,
driving.
Tell me about how wonderful it is to be able to drive. What's the best things you've done that you couldn't have done without a car?
I drove across Europe when I was 19.
Wow. From where did you go?
From England to Croatia via Germany. Right. I then therefore was able to stop off in various towns and stay in youth hostels and met random people. One could argue that I could do that. I could have done that on a train or in a bus or whatever.
Yeah, it's not the same, really.
But it's not the same.
I've done it done it on a train, but yeah, it's not the same. I don't think.
But also, like, I think travelling on my own, there's something nice about being in a car in some ways. I mean, I'm not a particular advocate of car ownership or not, but that sort of the fact that you can sleep in them. My whole family, we used to go to Paris every year on our way back from whatever holiday and literally sleep in the car because parking's free, and then go and look at tourist spots during the day, and then leave. I'm sure Parisians don't appreciate that kind of tourist, but it meant that we could get hang out in Paris quite a lot and do the museums and what have you. So, there's that sort of stuff. Yeah. There's the fact now that if I couldn't drive, we wouldn't be able to take the dog with us anywhere. Not that you necessarily want a dog.
Well, I grew up in the provinces, and I always had to have like friends with cars. So, and especially like playing, I'd be in my bands and we'd drive. That was the only way to play shows was load it up into someone's car or 3 cars often, and I couldn't have, and then my sort of like London music making playing experience has always been defined by how much can I fit in a trolley that I can get onto the tube or get into a cab and sort of get something. But usually the tubes, it's like I'm wheeling this stuff or carrying it to a station down some steps going. And then I see like my friend Graham, who's got the mechanical techno, and he's just got so much equipment that he's got turntables and stands, and it's like I could never do that because I don't have a car, I can't drive. But I always think, like there is that, I think like being able to play music is just one of the nice things in a car, isn't it? Just like put some music on. We just listen to so much music in the car. And in a way that...
sing along.
Well...
Because nobody can hear...
We're too cool for that. We're too cool for that.
Who's we?
The band. Me and my band
Okay,
friends,
the band.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Well, as an
on
individual
your own,
human...
you get to sing along in your car.
Or shout along if you're really enjoying yourself. So I get told off now by my small child. Yeah. Mummy, don't sing. Shh. Who made you, police? Anyway, so yes, like that, like the fact that you can put the transporting things is you can put a lot on a bicycle, that is for sure. But just going to car boot sales and buying random bits of furniture to do up and finding treasures and helping mates out.
Yeah.
If you're the one with the van. I've taken more than one sofa to the dump for people. There are things that you can do very straightforwardly if you can drive. Yeah. I mean, my mum I remember her talking to somebody and she said, if you're living, because this was when we were living in Yugoslavia, and the lady was pregnant, and she was like, you really should pass your driving test because... if something happens to the kid, you want to be able to put it in a car and take it to the doctors without having to phone around and wait for, the unreliable ambulance service to rock up. So it's a useful skill without doubt, even if you don't use it all the time. I think your challenge is going to be passing your test and then driving enough. You're going to have to make yourself go places to get the practice in. Get a car club membership or something.
Exactly.
And go crazy. Keep going and you can get to places that you can't get to, like especially British countryside. There are loads of places you can't get to with public transport.
Although nothing terrifies me more than those narrow hedge roads in the country where it's like you can see 2 meters in front of you and it's all sharp turns and everyone's driving at 50 miles an hour and it's like there's only room for one car. I'm like, how is this not just on fire the entire time? I do not understand.
It is amazing, though, how much driving happens with how, like you say, like you look at it sometimes you think, how is there not an accident here every 2 seconds? So I suppose, most of the time everyone's paying attention.
Yeah, and I've heard it said, like, I mean, they really do everything's marked out and there's signs and there's like, look, you'd have to be really stupid not to be able to see where you're supposed to be and where you're supposed to go. Although there's also those studies where there's too many signs, and if they take the signs away, then everyone drives better. So I don't know.
I don't know. I think I think that the way people drive, I find, is quite odd. It's funny, in Germany, the Autobahn I find quite stressful. It's like the funniest thing about that is that they all, because there's no speed limit culture, there are some ridiculously fast drivers, scarily so. And then the 80 kilometre per hour restriction comes in because of roadworks, and everyone's just like at exactly 80 kilometres an hour, which you don't get in England unless everyone knows that it's an area where you will get a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
British people like hedge on those like variable speed restrictions on motorways.
I hate that culture of like, I'm going to get a speed camera thing and then make sure I'm slow for the speed camera. It's like the ultimate letter of the law instead of like just. And I don't know how I'll feel when I'm the person in the at the wheel. Going, there's no speed cameras for a bit. I'm just going to break the speed limit because I want to get where I've got to get to is more important than anyone else's safety.
But I don't think breaking the speed limit is particularly about breaking the speed limit. It's because once you feel confident in your vehicle, driving fast is easily done. It's like it's like, and it's fun. It can be good fun. It can be fun driving and being in control of a vehicle and going places. Sure. I'm no petrol head. I've never owned a vehicle that's cost me any significant money. I used to have a succession of like second-hand Ford Escorts. But I think there is something enjoyable about driving a high-performance vehicle.
People do seem to like it. Anyway, this is all part of my plan for being rich. Like, I've got to be able to drive for when I'm rich. I've got to be able to speak Chinese, Japanese. Then? What?
Can't you just get a driver?
But, you've got to be able to drive so you can... I don't know, just like rich people life seems to involve occasional driving. So, I don't know.
I didn't. No,
so I've got to be a top health, top physical fitness, just learn all the things I need to learn. And I just think it's just a bit lame not being able to drive. So,
I mean, it is a bit lame not being able to drive, Michael.
Thanks.
No worries.
That's the stick for the carrot. And with that, let's tie it up, shall we? It's a bit lame not being able to drive.
It is, it's true.
Thanks for listening. If you like our podcast, I don't know why anyone would have listened to this, but maybe they... You can go to grandpodcast.com. You can subscribe. We're going to take a week or two off.
We are.
I'm halfway through my 4 weeks of supposedly being on holiday and just finding this, knowing that I've still got to edit the podcast really sort of makes it hard to just go...
It's ruining this holiday. The podcast.
I've got to edit it. I've got to listen back through to it. I've got to make my notes. I've got to re-edit it. I've got to upload it. I've got to think of something to write about it. I've got to put it on 6 different platforms. And it's like in terms of time taken, maybe not a stupid amount of time, but in terms of like a nagging thing that's not letting me relax. It's just like, I think I just want to, a little bit of space from it for a couple of weeks, and then we'll come back maybe with some new... I think I may even make it season 4.
Oh my gosh.
May even upgrade it to season 4. So we'll have some chats in the meantime about what that might mean. Maybe bring some video into the mix. But I don't know. Where can people find you? Where can people find you on the internet?
People can find me at Ivanka on Twitter. It's one of the best places to find me.
Twitter.
I'm
on Twitter as well, at Michael Forrest or MF Music or whatever. Just follow me and then, I don't know, doesn't matter. Doesn't really do anything. Why am I saying things like this? Come on, Michael. I'm just too hot. It's 30 degrees. It was just like we had this relief this morning that it wasn't like just too hot in the house. Yeah. But then I've come to the studio and it's just been like locked up for a few days and just absorbing heat. So this whole episode I've just been sweating because I sort of dressed for temperate weather. Hey, right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week. Or see you in a bit. Bye.